Hello all, welcome back to the next one. In this one, we'll see how we can provide parameters from TestNG file to our test methods. Take a look at this. I opened Eclipse and I created a file called TestNG underscore test parameters. And here it is in the test classes package itself. I have a before class here and I have a test method here. So what I'm printing here is from test parameters, this is a setup, and I'm printing parameter value from XML file, and it's twice. Basically, I'm printing the same thing twice because we will try to read multiple parameters in the setup class. And in other test method, I'm just printing one response from XML file. So we will take a look at providing parameters in the XML file. I just wanted to go over the class structure right now because what we want to understand is the scenario where we would need the parameters from testng.xml file. Let's imagine you have a setup which is maybe, let's say you are running Selenium WebDriver or mobile automation test cases, and you want to run your test cases on Firefox browser. So what you can do here is in setup, you can read which browser you want to run the test cases from the testng.xml file, and based on that you can initialize the driver, whether you want to initialize Firefox driver, or if the parameter says Chrome, then you can initialize Chrome driver. Same thing on mobile automation also. And maybe you're running REST API test cases, you want to read some expected response from parameters file, so you can read that response, and you can do multiple things like that. So basically, for setup kind of things, or maybe in test cases also, you can read parameters from testng file and you can use them. So let's take a look how we define them in the testng.xml file. So I created a file called testng-parameters.xml here. It is a parameter suite, and there is one class inside it, testng underscore test parameters, and now we will create the parameters. So inside the test tag, we will define in this angle brackets, I will say parameter. So the second one, and we can do control space. It shows us all the options, right? This will only show when you have doc type suite system line in the first. So when you have this statement in the first line of testng file, then only you will see this IntelliSense. So right now I got this by pressing control space, and in the name what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna provide browser, and in value I'm gonna provide maybe Firefox, and let's define one more parameter. So angle bracket P, and I can select this from the list and it completes it for me. Here I'm gonna provide platform. In the value, maybe I can say Mac or Windows. And let's define one more parameter. And here I'm gonna say response for REST API if you have, and maybe our response is 201. So basically, do not mix up Selenium with REST API or REST API with Selenium. I'm just taking both the examples here. So depending on what you are doing, you could just use, right? So Selenium WebDriver and REST API are two different type of testing. So please do not mix them. I'm just taking examples here. One thing to notice here is this thing is parameter. It's not parameters. So there is no S, and it has to be defined separately. There is no group tag like this, like classes, and then we define individual class. So there is no tag for parameters, and then we define parameter. So there's only one parameter tag which we use to define. We cannot group them in a particular parameters tag. So there is nothing like that. So this is the parameter that we define in the testng.xml file. And the real name is testng-parameters.xml. You can name it anything. Now we'll go to our test class. I have a before class and I have a test method. So let's say I want to read couple of parameters, maybe these two, browser and platform, in the setup class. So basically in the setup method before class. Before doing that, we need to add one more annotation here. So the annotation name is parameters. I type PA and then hit control space. So it gives me all these options. So pick the one from org.testng.annotations. Do not pick this parameter. This is the difference. We have to pick this one from testng.annotations, and this reads as parameters. This does not read as parameter. The reason is we can actually read multiple parameters from the testng file into one method. So that's why they added s here. Now how we add here is we add parenthesis, and inside it we add curly braces. Inside it, in double quotes, we can name the parameter which we want to read, and then by comma we can separate them and read another one also. So we have read browser and platform here in the setup. Same thing we can do here. So parameters from TestNG, and here I'm gonna read the one response. So we are reading two parameters in the setup method, and we are reading one parameter in the test method 1. So I took both the examples because I wanted to show that we can read multiple parameters in one method, and we can read a single parameter also. Now when we read parameters, they don't take into effect by default. We have to tell our method that something is being read. So here we define string and browser, and then string platform. If we are reading two parameters here from the testng.xml file, we need to define two arguments to this method. If we are reading one parameter, we need to define one argument. So here we're gonna say string response. That's it. Once that is done, now we are actually reading the parameters from the XML file. Now how can we demonstrate that we are reading the values from there? So we are reading browser and platform, but the real values are Firefox, Mac, and 201 for response, right? What we can do here is, in the print statement, I'm gonna print the values. So I am gonna say browser here, this is this one, right? And I'm gonna add plus platform here, and then here I'm gonna add plus response. So basically this thing will read the values from the XML file. This is what? This is a key value pair, right? Browser is a key, Firefox is a value, platform is a key, Mac is a value, response is the key, 201 is the value. So basically what it does is it takes the key, and then TestNG looks at the key and sends back the value to the methods. Now let's run this by right clicking on the XML file, run as TestNG suite, and we can see it here. So from the setup method, parameter value from XML file is Firefox, first one, and the second one is Mac. And for the test method, the response is 201. So basically we are reading the values by using the keys, right? The advantage is that we don't have to hardcode everything in our code files. We can provide the values from the XML file, which is external. This is very helpful. So we can only provide the strings from here. We cannot provide like integers by default. If we have to provide integers, like if we want to consider 201 as an integer, we have to convert it here by using Java casting. Like TestNG or Selenium WebDriver or REST API, they don't take care of casting. It has to be done in Java. So if in case we want to do that, we have to cast it or convert it. And if we want to provide arrays or anything else also, we can actually manipulate these things. Like we can do something like 201 separated by comma 200, and we can still read one parameter here, and then maybe let's say I wanna split it into a array, so I can say maybe string array, then I can read this response inside it. Sorry, response dot split, and then we can split them by comma. So what it will do here is basically what we are doing is we are using Java methods to kind of treat it as a array. It is still a string value separated by comma. What we are doing is we are reading string value, and then inside the array we are storing the string. How we are storing? We are using split method separated. We are giving the separator as comma, so it will split the string into an array wherever it will see comma, and this is about it. So what I can show you here is, maybe instead of response, I can show you the response also. Let's do it, and then let's take a look at the array values. So string array, I'm gonna put it here. So let's say this is the one 0 at 0 index, and this is the one at first index. So I'm reading both the values in the print statement, string array at 0 index and string array at first index, because we provided only two values, so definitely there's only gonna be two items. So what we can do here is string array index 0 and string array index 1. That's about it. So now we are reading both of them, so let's run it. Run as TestNG suite, and we can see, so the total response was still string 201 comma 200, and in string array at 0 index we provided 201, at first index we provided 200, because we separated the string or split the string with comma, right? So that's about it. One more thing is that we cannot run this file individually. If I try to run it as TestNG, it will kind of fail, because it is expecting some parameters, and we are providing parameters from, see, it is expecting some parameters, and we are providing parameters from TestNG XML file. So we can only run these using the testng.xml file. So that's about it, guys. Please download the files, practice, and let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you in the next lectures. Thanks for running this one.